like not just the rates too, right? But in mortgages, and I think it works like it's kind of similar in like solar, right? It's a very long sales cycle, and there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. Like there, you have an appraiser, you have a notary, you have, you know, a closer, you have all these different like moving parts, and so you sell the loan at the beginning, it goes into like processing, right? And then you have to get all these documents, and then all these other things have to take place that require other people that are out of your control. And if one of those people doesn't do their job right, your entire deal falls through, and that could be a lot of money, right? So, and that just happened like over and over and over. And finally, I'm like, you know, when I learned about insurance and how this works, I'm like, this is so much more simple. Like it's you and a customer on the phone. You submit it to underwriting, it gets approved.
All right, hello everybody. Grady Paulson, the American Agency. Beyond excited to have Morgan Rose now and Ryan Manrique on with us. I've known them for going on 2+ years now, and seeing them continue to come in, be focused on their business, be focused on growth, focused on finding new people and putting them in a better position has been a tried and true part of their success in this business. They sell at a high level, they recruit at a high level, and their agency did over $500,000 in issue paid volume last month. Tons of top producers, many agents already hitting Hall of Fame, working within their agency, and just incredible what they've done. But the thing I always just like to echo on, and you know, we'll get more tips out of them, is they were very successful before they came here. And you'll know this when Morgan starts talking, but she was going to be an attorney at some point, and or lawyer. I don't know what the actual difference is between attorney and lawyer. Maybe you can tell us. But she is one of the most well-spoken women I've ever communicated with, which is a testament to the skills she's developed. Ryan, one of the hardest working people, one of the top producers, selling all different verticals of products. But they did that because they came from a different industry, and mortgages will just, you know, share it. And where they were very successful, walked away or were forced away with the massive change in the industry, and didn't just roll over, didn't go, you know, I'm going to start selling, you know, affiliate products on Instagram. I'm not going to go get a job somewhere, go do something. I'm going to go talk to my successful friends. They connected with Nina and Hayden, learned more about the insurance industry, and you know, the rest is history. It encapsulates 2 years of life. But it's you know, hasn't been easy, but it's also has been incredibly rewarding, I hope. And I just want them to share with you guys what it takes to make it happen. So I'm so glad you're on, and it's so good to see you this week. They hosted a lock-in at a mansion here in Scottsdale, Arizona. It was absolutely beautiful, where they took care of their team and put them up in a beautiful environment, and then coached them and helped them make money. Maybe we can get an insight on the total success of that lock-in. But I'll stop talking now because I just want to hear from you guys. But thank you so much for coming on. Do me a favor, guys. Drop a 1, a 2, a 3, a 5, a high in the chat below. Show Morgan and Ryan some love for taking the time out of their very, very busy day to give back to everybody to try to learn and become more. So without further ado, how are you doing today, guys?
Thank you for that introduction.
Awesome. Happy to be here, man. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, so give us you know, I would love, you know, everybody doesn't know your story. We've had a great video with you guys before that got a ton of traction, but just to kind of recap your story, right? How you found the industry, how it, you know, how it's going, and, you know, what you're seeing here now and in the future. And then we can jump into some more sort of sales, recruiting type stuff.
Yeah.
Sure. So she actually started in insurance before me. I was in the mortgage industry for about 6 years. And that's when I met her, and she was planning on going to law school. And so I ended up, you know, she saw kind of how much money I was making in mortgages, and she's like, oh my God, like that's crazy. So she ended up making the move into mortgages, into sales with me. But then interest rates started going back up, and I'd been in the industry long enough to where I knew that it was just really cyclical. Like you could make a lot of money one year, but then the next year you're making like literally 20% of what you were making. So the second time around when that happened, I was just like, this just isn't really sustainable. It's not something that I see makes sense for us long term. And so she actually was kind of the guinea pig, and she made the move into FFL first. And who was it? It was Nina, right? That got you.
Yeah, we met up at press at the Scottsdale Quarter and chatted for a bit. But I was one of those ones that kind of, like you often say, Grady, I side-eyed it for a little bit. Because at the time I was 22, so I was making good money in mortgages, but I knew I wanted out. I hated like the pipeline, and there was just a lot of things going on in the industry where I kind of wanted to, be able to escape from that. So I did kind of do what you did, where I did kind of lay down at first. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get an e-commerce store. Like I'm gonna do one of those Amazon FBA. I'm gonna pay some guy 25 grand and I'm gonna make all this money and be able to like do whatever I want to do. Spoiler alert, that didn't happen. I just lost all the money. So I essentially, tried doing that for a couple of months. And then I was like, okay, that's not going to work out. So let me actually like take this insurance thing seriously this time. So I would say it was like towards the end of that year, I sold my first policy. I have a very funny story that I won't bore you with of my first travel trip in Oakland. I was in home.
These are the best. This is the real stuff. I want to hear about it.
It's crying from a hotel room because that was back when we were all still doing it in home.
Yeah.
And so, she was in she flew out to Oakland, California, which I don't know if when last time you went to Oakland was, but it could be a little sketchy in some areas. Now. Yeah. So she called me like crying and,
Yeah, that was my first experience. I sold one policy. Okay. It was an ADB for approximately 140 AP. So it was really exciting.
Oh, wow.
That was all I had to show for it. Yeah. So
I was just like, you got this, babe.
So, I mean, obviously I had kind of a rocky start, but it was realistically my own fault. I mean, I just wasn't really applying myself. I wasn't taking it very seriously. So it kind of ended up just a perfect storm. I kind of found out about IULs. I kind of aligned myself with some people in Arizona. And I started actually kind of getting to work. So around January, I had a pretty big, I had like a 40K week, I think it was, because I sold a couple policies and I sold a big IUL. So then Ryan was kind of like, like, okay, like, what is this? It's actually starting to kind of work out a little bit. So that's when we kind of had the conversation. At first, it was a little bit of a joke. He was like, yeah, I'll just
for the record,
take the test.
For the record, like I didn't know anything about insurance. I didn't even know that there was like a lot of money in insurance. I had no idea. So then once I saw that, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, there's a real opportunity here, right? So that's kind of what led me to end up making the jump over.
Yeah, at first he was managing a branch. So at first it was kind of a joke. It was like, maybe I'll just do it on the weekends, kind of just see like if it could be a good thing to transition. But then when he took his exam, he basically was just like, hey, so I was thinking like, I'm just going to quit. I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean? Like, I wasn't fully prepared for that. But, we both kind of had the mentality, and this is what we, we'll kind of get into when it comes to the team building side, that we communicate a lot with our own team. This isn't really, in our opinion, in the industry to come in and try to just do part-time and kind of, just give it half of what you've got. It's just not worth it to do that. So he was like, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Right. So he ended up coming in full time. And I guess the rest is kind of history in that sense, because it was just a little bit of a perfect storm in the sense of we jumped a little bit before rates and everything got really bad. And we had a good reputation in the industry because we had performed at a high level. So beyond that point, when everyone was like, okay, now rates are slowly creeping back up and I need somewhere to go, we were kind of the first person that they reached out to. But it was because we kind of had the foresight to make the jump before things got really bad in mortgages.
That's it. Everything is timing, and in business, it's timing. In real estate, it's location. It's so interesting you say that about your perception of insurance early on, because I think a lot of people's is like, there's a State Farm office on every corner, right? And then you think of the farmer's guy and the State Farm, like that's insurance. And then you think about the other angle is like Edward Jones and Morgan Stanley and these like, is that where you get insurance from? And then we kind of exist doing billions of dollars of production over the phone with people that request it, but just live in this alternate, not massively public universe of selling life insurance to people that request it because we work leads. But it's just like I didn't know there was that much money in it, and agreed. I didn't either. It blew my hair off, and then I had to get Rogaine and grow it back. But but that's what's fascinating about this world that we live in is like people come in and they see the numbers. They see the numbers you put up and your agency and your agents, and they go, "What are you guys selling?" Like it makes no sense to the normal mind. But then when you break it down, you go, we work leads, we work volume, we work 12-hour days, we work 5, 6, 7 days a week. We're putting in so much more time than the average person who works 40 hours a week, clock in, clock out, have, 2 15-minute smoke breaks and a 30, 45-minute lunch break. And that's their perception of the way money is earned. And so it's just we're compounding 3 weeks into one, which getting significant, and then that exponentially grows. So I love that. Will you do us a favor, though, for those that don't understand mortgages, the mortgage world versus this insurance world? Like, our insurance world, get leads, we work them. Like, you at your young age, Morgan, you said that you just didn't like it, from the pipeline to what you were going through to the changes. Like, it seems like there's a lot of stress. And like, as a consumer, I'm like, I call up a guy, he tells me what the rate is, I buy the house, right? I don't buy it. I maybe call one other person, say, can you beat this rate? He goes 5.5. He goes 5.35. And I'm like, okay, 5.35 is 0.15 less than this. You know what I mean? And like, from a consumer, we don't understand kind of that stress. So like, I always like to break down opportunities and people that were successful. Another one, making good money. Although rates were going up, there's still people buying houses. But what was so much more alluring and better in the insurance world that was like, I'm not, the money's great, but I'm just done with this industry, just because there's probably a bunch of other mortgage people out there that are maybe thinking about working with or looking at other opportunities, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when it comes to like the main difference between the two, and he might have a similar or differing opinion, and this is kind of how I break it down when I talk to anybody, not only within the mortgage arena, but even things like solar or car sales, anything that involves any type of financing, right? That's going to be one very contingent on financing rates, right? So consumer behavior is going to be completely dictated by where the rates are at. So no matter how good I am at what I do, that's going to, determine like whether there's any actual value, right? So for me personally, like seeing that, I'm like, okay, no matter how good of a salesperson I am versus something like an insurance policy where all I have to do is find the situation and something that I have is going to make sense for what they have. You're going to talk to a lot of people where nothing's going to make sense, and you're still commission based, right? So that's the one thing where it's like that cyclical nature. It's, you see people that get promoted when the market's good to management, and the next thing you know, the next year they're back down to LO or fired altogether. So in my mind, I'm like, when I'm looking at building out a career, it doesn't feel like much of one, because there's way too much that's outside of my own control to be able to consistently make money.
Can I add to that too? Yeah. So like, not just the rates too, right? But in mortgages, and I think it works, like it's kind of similar in like solar, right? It's a very long sales cycle, and there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. Like, you have an appraiser, you have a notary, you have, a closer, you have all these different like moving parts. And so you sell the loan at the beginning, it goes into like processing, right? And then you have to get all these documents, and then all these other things have to take place that require other people that are out of your control. And if one of those people doesn't do their job right, your entire deal falls through, and that could be a lot of money, right? So, and that just happened like over and over and over. And finally, I'm like, when I learned about insurance and how this works, I'm like, this is so much more simple. Like, it's you and a customer on the phone, you submit it to underwriting, it gets approved or declined, right? And then you go from there. So there's way less moving parts, and there's also much less like cyclical nature in this business. I mean, it's not really cyclical at all. I mean, maybe some times of the year a little bit, but it's so much better in my opinion.
Yeah, simplicity of the sale is going to determine a lot of how much you can make, because there got a point where you had a pipeline of like 120 people, and for like 6-7 hours a day, he's just like voicemail, answering emails, repricing, appraisal comes in, have to change it. Like, there comes a point where you really can't stay front end anymore. Like, you're just managing the pipeline. So for me, I wanted to reduce the time spent on that type of thing and just stay selling.
So you said such a good line, Morgan. Consumer behavior is dictated by lending rates. Yeah. Versus in our industry is at what point do people stop loving their family? Like, that's our if everyone keeps loving their family, we've got a marketplace. But if the rates go up for the past 3 years, right? I mean, what was the stat that came out just this past week? It's the first time rates were lowered since 2020. Yep. And you guys probably still have, fever dreams dealing with past rate increases, or the government meeting on how that's going to affect your business. And then having all those other people getting in the pipeline. Now, we deal with underwriters, and we deal with sometimes corporate, but the thing about the underwriter at like NLG, for sake, is they're trying to protect the company, but they also want the business, right? So it's not as though they're going to go, standard to, table Z. They might go standard or to substandard. Go, listen, just based on math, we can't take this person who's got 2 diabetic meds at standard rate. And you go, okay, well then there's always still kind of a solution based, maybe check another carrier who's got more lenient underwriting guidelines. But that's just so insightful to know, because I mean, we make a sale today, we could be paid tomorrow, right? What is the average pay cycle in mortgages? I mean, it's probably as long as a 30-day close, right? But do you have to wait even longer sometimes?
Yeah, sometimes it can be 90 days.
Yeah.
And like I've literally lost thousands of dollars just because a notary, like it had to be signed that day. Everything's on a time constraint with the mortgage, so it had to be signed that day to get it done, and the notary just didn't show up. Like some notary that, you know what I mean? So things like that are just incredibly frustrating.
Gotcha. Wow. Well, thank you for the breakdown. I mean, yeah, everybody drop a TY down below, because now you've got some ammo to go recruit some mortgage brokers or some people in real estate who are tired of that volatility and are looking forward to something a little more stable.